Hello, Highlanders. This is Mayor Rod Mann. I'd like to give you a preview of the upcoming council meeting on Tuesday, April 21st. We have a pretty large consent item list. If you remember, consent items are those that the council has previously discussed, or they are administrative in nature, and staff has already reviewed those with council. They don't need a lot of discussions and can be approved in one motion. A council member will occasionally ask to pull one because of late-breaking questions or because they wanted the public to benefit from a discussion on the item. All those are valid reasons for pulling an item. In this case, I expect maybe one of them or two of them would get pulled. The big ones on the list are we're approving our crack seal contract for the year. That's about $28,000 with a vendor named M&M Asphalt. We're approving a large road rehabilitation project that's just a little bit over $1 million. That one actually came in a little bit under what we expected, and that's the biggest project on that is 9600 North. There's a lot of work that we'll be doing there. We also on the list is a project on Knight Avenue to put in a 12-inch water line to provide culinary water to the property being developed south of the high school by Boyer. There's also an action item on the list to approve an amendment to our interlocal agreement for Central Utah 911. The reason for that amendment is because PG had a dispatch center and they elected to merge into Central Utah 911, and that actually does provide some economies of scale and benefits everyone. Our first action item is a public hearing. It's a request by a resident for the R140 zoning laws to be changed to allow for flag lots. Flag lots, for those of you that are unfamiliar with the term, are used when you have a large rectangular lot that's narrow in the front and goes into the back quite deep. It would allow an owner to divide the lot so that you can have a house in the front and a back. And the reason it's called a flag lot is because there's a narrow driveway on one side of the lot or the other to provide access to the back property. There are pros and cons to this. One of the biggest pro is that it allows for infill in areas that are already developed so that we can put in more homes and accommodate more people. Now this is in R140, so the lots still need to conform to R140, but we have properties that are 1.5 plus acres that you could actually do this on. A typical reason would be that a family wants to provide a home for their parents or vice versa, and they want them to be close, so they want to use the flag lot as a means to putting a second house on a piece of property. The biggest con is that for public safety, getting called to a flag lot, they sometimes don't see the lot or can't find it because of the narrowness of the driveway, and the signage isn't necessarily always very visible, so they'll drive past it and then they'll wonder where the heck that house number is because they didn't see it. That's the biggest con. We have a public hearing scheduled for an amendment to our development code. This is part of our code cleanup, and there's a table that is confusing when you read it because you're not sure which sections of the code it applies to. So we're just cleaning that up for clarity's sake. The next item is my item. It's something I've been talking with council for a couple of years about, to disallow political signs or any signs on public property with a couple of exceptions. Exceptions notably are for public events or for grand openings of new retail establishments or service establishments. There is an exception to allow that for a period of time to welcome in a new business. I think that's appropriate. But this would disallow political signs on public property. I think it's a good thing. It forces candidates to interact with residents to get signs on their yard if they want to use signs. So I think that is a positive. To get candidates to interact more with the residents is always a good thing in my mind. It also saves the city money. I ask Public Works or Parks Department to determine how much it cost them a couple of years ago. It was about $9,000 for the year. The costs were related to having to take out the signs and put them back for mowing and for damage caused to the sprinkler systems by stakes that are put in for the larger signs. They'll often break a sprinkler line or cut a controller wire, and we won't know about it till spring of the next year. And then there's a cost involved in fixing the sprinklers. So that's a positive in my view. It also takes away from actually detracts from public safety sometimes when you put a sign too close to a corner and you block views. So all in all, I think it's a good thing. There are pros and cons. I expect this will pass, but you never know for sure. The last item is another amendment to our municipal code, our city code, and it is to utilize new flood maps that the federal government released. It's a simple change. If we have to do it in order to remain eligible for national flood insurance in the city, so this shouldn't be a big item for discussion and should get approved pretty quickly. We have mayor and staff communication items. There are 4 of them. One is talking about the 2021 budget, and as you imagine, with the recent events, our expectation for revenue from sales and gas tax is going to be diminished next year, and it might even impact fees for new developments, because I'm thinking developers might slow down a little bit in the coming year. So that will be an interesting discussion. We have a construction project update by Todd. We have a lot of things going on in the city this summer. You'll see that a lot of the city is going to be under construction. So actually, if we stay slower during the summer, this is a good year to do a lot of the big changes that we're making this year. Kim Rodella will share with us the status of the Highland Happy Trails project. That's one where you might have noticed the trails getting cleaned up a little bit and chalk art on the trails. And you might even have noticed signs that my wife and I did with limericks. That was rather than do the chalk art, we did those. It's a clever idea by my wife. We collaborated on the limericks. If you haven't seen them, you should walk the trails because they are, in some cases, quite fun. I do say so myself. The last item is going to be a discussion on fling this year. And again, as you might imagine, the current circumstances likely mean that our fling will be diminished or even canceled, maybe because of if we still have event size restrictions in place, it'll be hard to do the fling. Anyway, hope you had a great week. It was a lovely day today. Today's Saturday. I hope it's a great week. If you have interest in commenting on any of these items, please send your comments to council@highlandcity.org. That will go to the City Council, myself, and the City Administrator. That will include your comments in the unscheduled public appearances or on the action item that they're associated with. We will see you on Tuesday. Stay safe.